Thank you for auditing Professor Skye's Record Review, the only first listen new music review show hosted by a French professor while his family builds a PC in the basement. So today I'm going to be reviewing an album by Fiona Apple called Fetch the Bolt Cutters. And I actually want to take a little bit of time, as I like to do, and express my sort of strange personal connection to Fiona Apple. You see, when she came out, it was 1997, right? And I was 20 years old, and her song came out, and there was kind of some controversy because she was in her underpants in the video, and she was like only 19 when it was made, and sort of like many other people, I sort of dismissed her and just sort of thought, oh, she's some pop star, and I was an idiot. And but at some point in some interview or something, I happened to catch sight of the fact that we have the same birthday. And I don't mean the same birthday like, hey, happy birthday. Like, we were born on the same day. I was going to show my birth certificate, but my wife was like, don't show your birth certificate on YouTube. So here's my blacked out driver's license. You can see September 13th, 1977. So that's made Fiona Apple something interesting to me. Now, I put too much stock into this. I'm a little bit superstitious, but it's always been kind of a funny, weird thing of thinking like, we've had the same time on planet Earth. You know, she's released a lot of great albums, been a great musician. I have a couple great kids, I have a good job, all this sort of weird things, but like, you know, there'd be times where I'd be like watching Saturday Night Live and she'd come up and I would just think like, I'm here in Boston watching her and we've like had the same time on planet Earth. That's a totally stupid point. It doesn't mean anything, but yet it's giving me this weird connection. I've actually often thought about like writing her a message, but how do I write a message to her without sounding like some weirdo? So I've never done it. You know, like when I think about my relationship with her, I remember very specifically in 97, I think it was not the Grammys, might have been the MTV Awards or something. And she said something like, you know, the world is bull ass, you know? And I remember thinking like, she's so lame, so selfish. And I also remember seeing the video and feeling bad about being turned on because I felt like it was like, you know, pedophilia or something, except like I was the same age as her. So I guess it couldn't have been. I should take it easier on myself. So, you know, her arrival into the popular consciousness is this very sort of bizarre conflict of this allegedly Tori Amos-like piano player, singer, songwriter, and then someone dancing around in their underpants in the video. And I think that actually did a lot to set her career trajectory, where she's basically been sort of having to pay for that original sin from the very beginning. Because it was through that original sin, I think, that she rose up and gained a lot of attention. But it's through her talent and potentially, based on this new album, her genius, that she maintained the spotlight and that she keeps creating great music. So, you know, her second album came out, and a couple of my friends were really into it, you know, when the pawn, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't like it because the music was way too technical. It was like all my friends who liked, you know, super technical music. And I remember listening to it and just thinking, all right, take it easy. Just, can you get a little rough around the edges? Good news, me. In 2020, she's going to release an album that is very rough around the edges in exactly the right way. And you know, not much happened then until 2005, and that album came out. I just had my son. It was sort of like my first experience trying to listen to music since being a dad. And like I fell in love with it, and my then wife fell in love with it, and like we went and saw her in concert, and it was this weird sort of great moment where I felt like, you know, that she took the path of the artist, and I took the path of the family person, the bourgeois pig versus the artist. Who cares? And like here we were, and like she was releasing her best album, and I was starting this great family, and it's all kind of going. So there you go. And I haven't really thought about her since then. I didn't catch the last album. I wasn't paying attention. And now it's been 8 years, and here's her record. The thing that I really like about her music, all of her music, is that she's not just confessional. I find confessional music to be slightly annoying most of the time. She is invitational. I just came up with that term right now, but I'm going to build on it here. She's invitational in the way that she invites you into her brain. Invites you into her mind. You see the cover of this album, and it's like her way up close, and then like a dog above her, and it says, "Fetch the bolt cutters." And you get the sense that, you know, like she's really opening up, but like you're in her head, which is not the same thing as like, this is what I did, and this is who I loved, but like, this is how I think. And it takes a good artist, it takes a great artist to do this well, and that is what she did on this album. This is 2 albums, really. It's 13 tracks, thematically, it's one album. Basically, every song is about a breakup, maybe multiple breakups. It's being inside of her mind as she's getting over it, as she's relating to this man or these men who she's moved beyond or who moved beyond her heartbreak, her loss, and most importantly, the concept that she has loved before and the person she loved loves again. This very complicated concept of love being different and love not being owned. It's really quite well done. And I'm going to get throughout this album, throughout this review, I'm going to tell you more about how she does it. Because she does it so well. I feel a real sense that I've lived through something through this. And it's not just because she's saying like, you know, oh, and I saw you kiss her and I felt like on fire. Like you're inside of her brain. It's crazy. But it's 2 albums musically. There's basically the first 2 tracks, which is like a single and a B-side, very piano-driven. When you think of Fiona Apple, this is what you think of. And then what I call an 11-track drum solo. The end of this album, the majority of this album, feels to me, I'm going to call it the bolt cutter equation, okay? This is how I imagine the songwriting going. Fiona Apple, who gets drum writing credit on much of the album, gets behind a drum set and plays. There's a funny thing about people who are not drummers who play drums, especially if they're musically talented. They are often way better at writing drum lines and writing drum beats than actual drummers. A personal example is the guitarist for my band. Interestingly, my band broke up in 1997. So right as she was making it was when I was abandoning my musical dreams. You do it, Fiona. Do it for both of us. We're both Virgos. Sorry, I got Toby walking around here. Toby, we're going to get to you later. Out. So, like, when someone drums who's not a drummer gets behind a drum set, there's a kind of joy and excitement and even naivete that comes out. And I believe most of this album was her getting on a drum set and kind of playing something and creating a kind of rhythm. That's the first part of the bolt cutter equation. Then she writes some amazing lyrics that are inside of her head, and then she creates some line, like a single line, that has a certain melodic strength, the ability to be repeated without getting repetitive. I swear to God, she sings the same lines like 50 times in every goddamn song, but you end up loving it. You never go, all right, I got it. Even when she's just saying one line, ladies, 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 you never get tired of it. And part of the reason why is that each time that she's doing these melodic lines, she has them rhythmically, either, contrapuntally, against the rhythm or with the rhythm, so that the whole thing feels like an exercise in rhythm and melody, completely led by the drums, which is awesome. I mean, this is some really new stuff, okay? Piano is a percussion instrument, so I guess all piano albums are drum albums. Shut up. But, this ability to just create this atmosphere and this feeling and these repeated lines, these thesis statements. And especially, I've now listened to the album 3 times, you just get more and more into it. Until after you hear a song for the 3rd time, you're sort of doing a mental countdown until you can hear it for a 4th time. The one thing I will say, and I've always felt this about Fiona Apple, is that her voice is a make or break element. She's very LA. I think she grew up in New York or something, but she's very much an LA singer. Maybe it's because she used to date Paul Thomas Anderson, who's a very LA director, but I get a very, Harry Nilsson, Laurel Canyon-y vibe off of her music and what she sings about. I think she lives in Venice Beach, somewhere very LA-like. But the way that she sings reminds me a lot of those singers of the 70s. Maybe even like Randy Newman, where it's very strong. Her voice is very strong, and it's the real make or break aspect. Like this kind of, either you really buy it and you love it, or you have to get used to it and kind of struggle with it. She goes so far and gets so close to being way too affected. And really it's just a question of whether or not you buy it. Please forgive the additional sound of my dogs drinking water. I get the whole house quiet, I got my daughter's upstairs, son's downstairs, but these dogs with their clicky-clacky feet. So, that's my brief review of the album. Now I'm going to go track by track, get a little bit deeper. I will just say instantly that this is just what a great time for music. I mean, I've been reviewing some great stuff lately. This is awesome. You know, part of the reason I do this channel is to answer the question, hey, is there any good music out there? And the answer is yes. God, between this and the Strokes, I mean, we've got some really great music coming out right now. All right, Bo, would you just get back to the dog seat so you stop clicking clacking? The people don't want to hear your clicking and clacking, unless you do. Put that in the comments. So let's start with the first track, I Want You to Love Me. So this is one of these kind of fake out tracks that feels like a more traditional Fiona Apple song. The thing is it's got that, remember how I said her second album was a little bit too clean for me, a little bit too well produced? This has just got a rawness to it, where she says, I want you to love me. And she does it over and over again. And it actually really reminds me of Old Dirty Bastard. Return to the 36 Chambers, Old Dirty Bastard's 1997. Was that 97 as well? I think it was. Old Dirty Bastard's masterpiece, his first album. Like, one of the first tracks is him just going, ah, as long as he can. Ah. Remember when he used to do that? Remember when he used to do that? Ah. And this has that feel. And it's something that I think maybe she doesn't get enough credit for. She's very playful. This is a very playful album. When she sings, I want you, she means it, right? Like, she's singing it and she's letting her voice get a little bit ragged and she's extending it out and you're feeling this pain. But it's also kind of goofy. And I like that. Maybe that's even more that LA vibe, you know? Like, if you listen to a Great Nilsson album, he's like pouring out his heart, but he's sort of joking the whole time that he's doing it. I got that feeling a little bit from this. To the point where it ends, the song ends, and she breaks into Yoko madness, which my daughter calls it whale sounds. I said I'm going to be reviewing Fiona Apple. She goes, oh, the whale sounds woman? It's like, well, I guess. But she goes full Yoko Ono at the end, and many songs here kind of trail off like that. The second track and the first sort of faked you out first two tracks is called Shaniqua. And this is one of these great inside of her head things about feeling young and feeling bullied and feeling like, you know, sometimes people who aren't nice to you or who are bullies say something, like I have memories, right, of like Sean Flynn. He invited me to his birthday party just to throw pizza in my face, just so all the jocks would laugh at me. But I remember once, he said to me, Skye, you're kind of funny. And this stayed with me. Like, this kid who's such a jerk, such an animal, like, he thinks I'm kind of funny. And this is a song set in that standpoint, where this person, Shaniqua, told her that she had potential. This just, wow, why is this such good songwriting? What an amazing thing to write about. Like somebody who's not your friend giving you a compliment that you carry with you for your whole life. I mean, I'm not going to cry, but I could actually make myself cry about the beauty of this concept. The first time I listened to it, I was really annoyed. I just thought her singing was too much. Second time, really annoyed. Third time, it was my jam. I loved it. So if you don't like Shaniqua, listen to it a third time. And then at the end, there's another little breakdown. And this is where she announces through the drums, let's get on to the drum solo. Okay, we're headed there. Fetch the Bolt Cutters is basically just an extended poem to music. She seems to like to just do very long sentences and very long lines. There's lots of barks at the end. I might play it for Toby later and see if he barks. He usually barks when he hears it music. Or he might just like lift up his ears. I don't know. Do you want to see that? You probably do. I'm going to put that at the end of the video. And then we get to my stamp, my favorite track on the album by far, Under the Table. This is kind of a nice hybrid between the two styles. There's great drumming, and I really feel as though this had to be based on the drums first and then the melody. It actually reminds me thematically of the song No More Parties in LA by Kanye, because it's like this story about this woman who goes to a party with a sort of controlling boyfriend, and she's like, stop kicking me under the table. I'm not going to shut up. So she wants to speak her mind, and he doesn't. Now that's, first of all, a good slice of life, but it's important to set up the rest of the album, because the rest of the album is all about dealing with this breakup. And now you see why they broke up. She speaks her mind too much. He's too controlling. They can't possibly stay together, right? They can't possibly keep it together. Sorry, I have to now think about if I have to pause it, if Toby's going to keep barking. And one more thing about the music here is it's almost like a funeral dirge at points. Like the sound of it, it feels like it's a death. And this is the death of the relationship that the rest of the album is going to mourn. And it's done in kind of a subtle way, right? I mean, if you think about it, like it's just a little disagreement between a couple, right? Just a little disagreement, who cares? But it has this really heightened importance. Next track is called Relay. This is a perfect example of the way that she repeats things over and over again in a rhythmic, melodic fashion. Evil is a relay sport where the one who is burned turns to pass the torch. Beautiful concept, beautiful idea of the sort of contagiousness of doing bad. Each word is like a drum hit, right? And then it ends with this goofy choral singing exercise. Again, it's a very, very playful album. Rack of His, another very drum-led song. This is the best example of the enthusiasm of a non-drummer on a drum set. Interestingly, the only song I ever sang with my band, my guitarist played the drums. And it was the best drumming our band ever had. Arguably, though, it was also the best song we ever had, even though I'm not that good of a songwriter. It's funny how these things work out. Then we get to Newspaper, another drum-led track. And this is really cool because it's a song dedicated to her ex's future lovers. And it's sort of like this whole thing about like being cursed to love somebody. And there's these great moments where she even sings out of tune. I mean, her voice is such a wonderful instrument that when she sings out of tune, it must be intentional. And again, the same lines repeated over and over again. What did he say not to make us friends? And they get burned into your head. And you wonder, right? You've had an ex before, right? You know that your ex talks about you to their new boyfriend or girlfriend. And she says that she loves this woman. She loves the new person because she knows what she went through. She knows what she's going to go through. This is a great breakup album. And what I thought when I was listening to this, I was like, you know what? I really wish there were more songs from this perspective. More songs written to the current love of a do you know what Fiona Apple did? Do you know what the next song is about? The exact same topic. It's awesome. There's really a flow to this album. Now that I talk about it, kind of slow. You know, like there's a flow where like the end of the second song introduces the drum stuff. Then this song is thematically linked to the next one completely. And this song, Ladies, I'm going to play it for you a little bit right here. Copyright be damned. And this is the one I think you should listen to figure out if you're going to like this record. She repeats the word ladies, 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 ladies over and over again. And it's an extended meditation on the people who are going to love her ex-lover. There's even this amazing extended explanation of this dress that's in his apartment that wasn't even hers, that was the ex of a former ex of hers. And this is a great example that she can do in quite a nice way, in a similar way to many great artists who can take an object and make that object have meaning. So she's able to take that and make that whole verse about that one dress. But what I want you to listen to is how loose the music is, how strong and prominent the drums are, how rhythmically interesting the singing is, and sort of the way that her idiosyncratic voice really dominates and the emotion that's behind it. So I'm going to play you about 14 seconds. So that little one line right there, another woman to whom I won't get through, is introduced there and then comes at the end, and that becomes her thesis statement that she repeats over and over and over again. The overarching theme of this song, and maybe the entire album, is that you can't compare love. Just, God damn it, sit where you're sitting and think about that sentence for a second. I hadn't really thought about this sentence that much. You can't compare love. Think about my ex-wife. Think about my wife now. Think about my ex-girlfriends. I can't compare love. Love cannot be compared. I haven't thought of that. Have you? I've always compared loves. I've always thought about the different ways that I've loved people. You can't do it. That's what Fiona Apple says, and I think she's right. I don't mean to be cheesy, but I'm legitimately getting goosebumps right here. It's an amazing concept, and she brings it out in both of these songs with this great, loose singing style and the drums, and you're just in this atmosphere. You're in her Venice Beach house, and you're inside of her head. September 13th, 1977. Turning 43 this year. You know who else is turning 43? Kanye. Tom Brady. Good company, Fiona. Another interesting thing about this thesis statement, yet another woman to whom I won't get through. Notice her proper usage of the word whom. This is another element of her style, which is very literary and very poetic. Like she's writing this out and she's thinking of the proper grammar. This could be a turnoff to people who don't like to feel like to whom, right? It can come across as pretentious, but I actually think it's just honest. I think this is the way that she thinks. I think this is the way that she writes. And she's not going to say to who. She's not going to be like, I ain't getting through to you if that's not the way that she speaks. But I think that's a good microcosm of, if you want to say what is people's problems with Fiona Apple, I think if you just said the sentence, another woman to whom I won't get through, you could have the entire spectrum of why people don't like her. Happy Balloon is another super drum song. Guitar comes out of nowhere on this. Guitar happened on this song, and I felt like I was listening to the wrong album. I don't think there was guitar anywhere else on the entire album. I could be wrong. Put it in the comments. Skye, you missed this great guitar line. But I think this is the only guitar anywhere, which is nice. There's a beautiful part where like these really bizarre and difficult harmonies come in. This and the next track, Cosmonauts, do a lot of great layering and playing with like multiple songs, multiple harmonies, dropping sounds out, bringing them back in. Especially Cosmonauts, she has like this bizarre, like angelic chorus, I believe, of herself behind her. The next track, For Her, is sort of in a similar vein of Ladies and Newspapers. And this one's pretty bizarre. This one's rough. This is a rough listen because it's a cappella in the beginning. Did you just make something good that's a cappella? You might have, Fiona. Good job. Pretty hard. A cappella is pretty hard to make sound good in a rock and roll in a rock and roll environment. But it's great because it starts off a cappella and then some percussion comes in and you're like, oh, I get it. This is how this whole song goes. And then it just gets unhinged and she almost starts like even yelling. Like it's this really intense song where she's singing about being raped on the bed where your daughter was born or something. You're like, yeah. Really, it escalates quickly. And there's a sort of other element of Fiona Apple's music, which is you're never emotionally safe. At any point, she might just go, and you're just like, right? And this song has a little bit of that. The track Drum Set is another great object. And this is cool because I really think Fiona Apple just had fun playing drums and made an album about it. It just happened to be the album's a masterpiece. What are you going to do? But it's about like objects representing feelings. So she's looking at a drum set, but the drum set's gone, so she just sees the rug where the drum set used to be. And this has happened to me so many times in my life where I've moved drum sets or I've had to, close it down because the neighbor complained or I had to move it to someone else's house. And you look at the space where a drum set was, and it's one of the saddest places on earth because a drum set is such a ebullient, loud, cacophonous thing of joy. And you just see this carpet. And she didn't go this far, but I would even go like the little indents where the kick, because you have to have like a little anchor thing that like pokes into the carpet so that when you kick the kick drum or the hi-hat, it doesn't go all over the place. Like just these little pock marks where the kick was and the hi-hat was. It's a sense of loss. And she expands that to the sense of loss that she feels and wondering, why did you give up on me? This ex of hers. Some really nice texturing with bass notes. And then just lots of crazy vocal acrobatics. The last track is On I Go, and I don't think I'm going to talk about that song. I'm not going to. I don't know why. I'm looking at my notes. You know, this is like maybe the most notes I've ever had for any album. You know, got this, got that, got this, and then just look, on I go. Just nothing. You know, this is gonna make it to my top 10, so I'll discuss On I Go at some other date. So anyways, I'll put in a little bit here of Toby listening. Actually, we'll see. Of Toby listening and maybe barking. Okay, until next time, for Fiona Apple and this aggressive plant, there's the camera.